Hello everyone, this is part 2 of my story. My husband was an FBI DEA informant. So after my arraignment and my bond hearing, I was summoned to the Southern District of Florida. So I had an indictment there that was sealed, that was being unsealed. So I went there and I was rearraigned and arrested and brought back into custody and had to post a bond. A week later, I was summoned to the Eastern District of Texas, facing the same charges. Had an arraignment, went back home to Fort Bend County. Um, After that, I was waiting for the pending date for court in the Northern District of New York. However, that date didn't come because the Northern District decided that they would just take their case and draft it in with the Southern District of Florida's case. Initially, I ended up having to sit down with my attorney in the Eastern District of Texas, and I had a chance to go over the discovery in a Texas case. So, a lot of what they said I had done, I had actually done. My thing was, I wanted to explain the reasons for what I had done. And so my attorney pretty much told me, well, you're pretty low on the totem pole. I don't really think that, you're going to get anything. Most likely, you're just going to end up with probation. So I was like, okay, well, yeah, definitely I want to be held accountable, but at the same time, I want to be treated fairly. So my attorney then told me that, yeah, he was going to set up an appointment and see if he can get in there with the United States Attorney in the Eastern District of Texas. So initially, he called me back and he let me know that, yeah, have you heard of this person? I'm not going to use people names, but they know who they are. So, like I told you before, my husband did work with the United States government. He worked with DEA for some years. And so I basically remember the odds being stacked up against me in this situation that I was in. And if I hadn't told you before, my ex, he did not get a bond. So on the day that I made bond, I went home alone. And eventually, me and him were able to communicate. So when we first started communicating, he was only worried about an attorney. But then it went from him wanting attorneys to him asking me, could I please help him? He went to telling me how much he loved me after he cheated on me for multiple years with multiple women and he made multiple babies on me, to how I was the love of his life and how he made some mistakes and that he had some issues, all of the same stories that he had told over and over again. But I was done at this point because I finally realized that I was dealing with a manipulator. He asked me to go and speak with federal agents and that he would give me information and that I can work um, for him as an informant. So, after being with someone for 21 years, you trust them and you love them. You would think that, they would always have your best interest in mind and at heart. But when he asked me to become an informant for him and work with the government, I was completely taken aback. I just couldn't believe that he would jeopardize my safety for his own sake after he had already gotten me caught up in this big web of deceit. So at that time, the conversation didn't go pretty good, not on his end anyway. I decided that, it was just best that we part our own separate ways. With the circumstances at hand and with everything that was given, this was like my final draw. I had realized in that moment that I was dealing with somebody that I actually really thought that I knew that I actually didn't. So eventually, after speaking with my attorney for several months, she decided that it was in my best interest to go and sit down with the United States government in the Southern District of Florida. So they had set a date for me to come in and sit down with the government in something that's called King for the Day practice that the government practices. So anything that I would say in this meeting could not be used against me. So me and my attorney showed up, and there were people, cameras set up everywhere. There are FBI agents, the United States attorney, the prosecutors, multiple people sitting in this room at this big, huge table. And so For about 2 or 3 hours, I sat in that room as they threw question after question after question at me. And I answered them as truthfully as possible and with the information that I had. But ultimately, everything kept coming down to where is the rest of the money, which I didn't understand because I had already spoken with them about the money situation. I had already told them, well, y'all froze the accounts, and they wanted to tell me, well, tell us about the $2 million that you moved recently, because I had then had to move out of my home and I had returned back home to the Eastern District of Texas to reside with my parents after finding out that I was looking at some prison time. So they wanted to know about these millions of dollars that I had and that I had recently moved from the Southern District of Texas into the Eastern District, which didn't make any sense to me. And I was very adamant with them that I really don't know what you're talking about. And the story was kind of twisted as they were telling it to me. And so I started feeling like, well, is somebody trying to set me up, like trying to make it like I'm holding on to something that I don't actually have. And so I left that meeting, that interview that day with my attorney, with her telling me, well, once somebody get into contact with me, then we'll go from there. It wasn't 2 days. My attorney got in contact with me with a notice from the United States government saying how they were going to come after me, I guess with a vengeance. Basically saying that, I was not, in the government's words, forthcoming in the interview, that I knew more than what I was putting out, and that basically they were going to proceed with the 20-year cap that they have for conspiracy in the state of Florida, as well as the 20-year cap that they had for conspiracy. So, as a first-time offender, I didn't know too much about that side of the criminal justice system. So after the government decided that they were going to make an example out of someone, and that person was going to be me, and my now ex, I had to go through the pre-sentencing investigation with my attorney. So I went through the pre-sentencing investigation, and maybe 2 weeks later, my attorney emailed me with the pre-sentencing report. So I went over it, and I seen that now I was looking at a total of 9 to 13 years in federal prison in both the jurisdictions of the Southern District of Florida and the Eastern District of Texas. So I was looking at a lot of time. As a mother with children, it seemed like it would be a lifetime for me. However, I just looked in the face of adversity, and I kept going because that's what we do. Eventually, I spoke with my now ex over the phone again, and the conversation was not good. And I remember before getting sentenced, he ended that phone call with, I can do my time, because he had been in federal prison before. I can do my time. I hope you can do yours. And I pretty much didn't think anything of it other than, he was just angry and he was upset, and so he was just saying anything. Well, on the day of sentencing, I just remember my attorney telling me that, she wished that my case could have been in another court, because she could guarantee that I would have had a different result. However, because of the court that my case was out of, she could not guarantee me anything, and that she wished me the best of luck. And so we went in the courts, and I got sentenced that day to the 96 months after my attorney argued down some very good points, and was able to reduce that 9 to 13 years down to 6 to 8 years. However, the government decided that they would go with the higher end of that sentence, which was the 96 months they recommended. So I was on my way off to prison, where my life would change completely.